Hi and welcome Unity fans. I got a request on how to turn the flamethrower of the last tutorial into a weapon. Well, here's the tutorial. I will start with the last scene where we dragged the prefab into the editor and added a script to be able to drag this flamethrower around. And now let's have a look at the flame particles and the parameters, because I want to animate this, okay? So first of all, we have the start speed, which is set to 8, and when I turn this down, you can see I can reduce the size of the flame. And the other parameter is the start size. And when I turn both to 0, then the flame is disabled and not visible anymore, but you can see I have this fire embers, which is a second particle system. But for this one, when it comes to animating this, I will just enable and disable the emission. Okay, but now let's create the animation. Let's call this FT for flamethrower and add a new folder to store the animations. Okay, when we create this, an animator controller is added automatically to our game object, and then I enable the automatic keyframes and start to animate this. Let's start with the flames. In the first keyframe, I set the start speed to 0. Okay, and the start size also to 0. Okay, and then let's add the end keyframes. And here I'm going to turn the start speed again to 8 and the start sizes to 1 and 2. Okay, I have to disable the 3D start size. I think I activated this by accident. Alright, and when I scrub through the animation frames, now you can see how the flame size is enlarged or reduced according to the current position. Okay, as I said, here is the second particle system. And for the first keyframe, I will just disable the emission. And at this frame here, I will enable it again. Yeah, that's a nice animation for the flames of the flamethrower. And now we're going to modify the animator controller for this game object. So here is the first animation stage with the animation we just created. This stage should be activated when the player enables the flamethrower. And I duplicate this to have the reversed animation that is played when the flamethrower is turned off. I set this as the default state. And what I need now is a parameter, a bool parameter, to indicate if the flamethrower is turned on or off. By default, it's off. And now I create a transition from the off state to the on state that is enabled if the parameter ft_on is set to true. Then let's add the transition from the on to the off state, and for this one the parameter ft_on has to be set to false. So by default the loop time is set to true. We will set it to false because we don't want a looping animation. And then I extend the script because we need to implement the user interaction to enable or disable the flamethrower. We do this in the update method and check if the user presses down a certain key, for example the F key for fire or something like that. So when the user presses down this key, we have to get the animator, and for this animator we have to set the parameter ft_on to true. Okay, now I'll copy and paste this and add the key up interaction. When the user releases the F key, then I set this parameter to false. And this is the basic logic for this flamethrower. Let's start it and see how it works. Okay, I see here on startup I have to disable this, but we will do this in a minute. Okay, tracking still works. Now I'll press the F key and the flamethrower is activated, and when I release the F key, then the flame is turned off. Okay, that's nice and I like it, but now let's fix the initial state of this animation and of this interaction. Let's come back to the animator and add a new state, an empty state, and this one will be the default state. Create a transition and define it as the default, and this transition is called onStart, and from this state to the on state of the flamethrower we will create a new transition which is activated when the parameter ft_on is set to true. Great, and when we start the game now everything should work as expected. You can drag around this object, and when I press the F key down, then the flames are thrown, and when I release the F key, the flame size is reduced. Now you can, for example, define this game object as a prefab and use it as weapon in an FPS game or wherever you like. I hope you learned something and you liked this video. If you do, please let me know, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you want to be my patron, this would be amazing. Thanks a lot for watching, and I really hope you come back soon to J&M.